You're listening to Connections Radio, the sound of business. I'm Louisa Wizzi Magnuson with Martin Henry on the business of tech partnerships. Martin Henry started his career over 30 years ago in the new supply chain and IT management department at Gillette. There, he digitized the manufacturing and management systems before moving into the role of head of real-time information systems at SmithKline Beecham. He went on to work for some of the world's leading consulting tech companies, including Infosys, EY, and IBM, solving client challenges, before setting up Journi in September 2022. Journi operates as a tech partner for growing businesses, and Martin is here with me today to discuss the business of tech partnerships. Welcome to Connections Radio, Martin, and thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm very well, Louisa. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Can you please start by outlining what first led you into the tech sector?
By accident, I think is the right way of putting it. My lovely better half dragged me down to London over 30 years ago. It's when I joined Gillette. I kind of went into supply chain. Supply chain IT was very new in those days. They were part of manufacturing. They weren't really anything else. And I didn't really know what they were. I mean, I had blue screens when I went to university. I was given this brand new laptop, a desktop. And I read a strategic article after 3 weeks of being there, and it really sort of articulated what they thought IT and supply chain were going to do in 10 years. Half of it came true, half of it didn't. But I said, okay, well, I'm quite ambitious in those days. Could I actually sort of learn about it? So I made friends with the IT support department, as they call it. They just provided laptops and, well, not always laptops in those days, but just normal desktops. And then, as we move forward, it was all paper-based. And I thought, well, we use something called Fourth Shift, which is like an early MRP system in a lot of the manufacturing sites. So it's just to explain, I worked for Africa, Middle East, and Eastern European markets. And really, it was about supply chain from 13 manufacturing sites around the world, bringing them into Europe. And really, paper-based, manual error, lots of mistakes. Could we actually sort of use the tools that we've already got? We paid for it. Can we not actually sort of see if we could use it in head office? So that's what I started to do. So let's say I got all of the new computers and all of the rest of the stuff, and in the space of 3 to 4 years, digitalized, as we call it now. It was on the computer in those days, but digitalized everything that we did from supply chain, so connected to the manufacturing sites. Admittedly, it was by batch job. Overnight, because it wasn't sort of real time, and that's how it started.
That sounds quite cutting edge for the time you're describing. Did you feel an excitement that you were at the cutting edge of technology at the time?
Not at the time. It was just interesting. I've always had this enthusiasm for new things, and I always wanted to build things. And it was just something that I clicked with. It's a people thing as well. You click with the individuals, or you can speak in the same language to a certain degree. It was something I hadn't really come across, and it was just new. And I got I heard of OS2. It was something that before Microsoft came in and busted everything and made the world a Microsoft world. IBM had another system. I used that quite a bit, and it was quite intuitive. So I got involved in all of that. So it's just more a case of just curiosity, really, more than anything else.
You know what they say about curiosity and cats. So now you are co-founder and CEO of Journi. Can you please explain what Journi does?
We're a tech partner. We provide strategic advice for companies without a tech, either do have a tech presence or alternatively don't have a tech presence. And it's really sort of boiled down to two things. We really give advice from a strategic viewpoint. Alternatively, we augment technical individuals into their existing teams, because some companies have very good departments, but they need to supplement, augment their teams. Alternatively, we go what we prefer to do is to sort of do it end to end, based on a discovery process. And I think, it's really what we do, it's what we ask, rather than what can we do for you? It's really a case of how can we help you? And that's really how it all started, and that's what we do. So the first thing is how we can help. How can we help you? and they explain the problem. And it's about understanding the business problem, which a lot of companies don't do, because you can't deliver something to the expectation if you don't understand what you're trying to deliver. And quite often, the businesses don't know what they want, so they need to be it needs to be explained to them what technology can do, and then and the third thing it does is the discovery piece is see if we can work together, because it's a strategic partnership. We're not interested in transactional operations. It's they need to trust us, and trust them, and that's what we do. I mean, it's more of a trust and how can we help, but from a tech environment, so to speak.
And you talk about a partnership approach you just have, and you also talk about it on your website. What does that mean in practice? What is a partnership approach?
Well, I've just sort of explained it to a certain degree. The client needs to trust you. If they don't trust you, they don't deliver against the expectation. They're spending a lot of money in some instances not so much, but they really want to be able to work with someone that they trust. For instance, a client that we've got at the moment, I don't mention any names, the first thing that they'll do will pick up the phone if they've got a problem and call us. And it's not really the problem with the system that we're implementing. It's what about other things? How can we help with that? And that's what I class as a partnership. So we work two in a box with them. They have to obviously commit from their side, otherwise it doesn't work. And we commit the right resources and the right people, and we spend the time with them. I mean, it's when you say partnership, it really, when you're engaging, if you're a transactional company, you might win something in 2 weeks. Really, how do you understand the business model? What are they trying to offer? Work with them, because it takes time. So, I wouldn't expect to start working with someone for 6 to 8 weeks, just purely on the basis you need to sort of get to know each other first. So that's the partnership. It's really work together. But not only that, we have all the partnerships in tech that we can't be everything to everybody. So we have partnerships in terms of other tech companies, and we bring in the right skills at the right time. So overall, we look after them, and we get the right people in the right place. And if we can't do it, we say we can't do it.
Fair enough. And going back to Journi, why did you start the company in 2022? What inspired you to get going with this?
Well, both Carlos and I come from a big corporate. I think probably me more than Carlos, but and you learn a lot of processes and how to do things. There's a lot of teaching that goes on. The taught all the models, and it's all wonderful stuff, and it's really interesting. But really, it's a case of how can I actually bring what I've learned to smaller operations? It would work. So I took the punt and joined a smaller company. And that's when Carlos joined, and we worked together really well. And what we found was that we'd taken what's called design thinking or tech design thinking into a different level. And it became a real innovation. And let's say the companies that we work for more than double their revenue, just because of our engagement model and how we work with clients, because they trusted us. Saying that, what we also wanted to do is to make sure that we didn't do things, we learned from mistakes that were made. So we wanted to be a people first company. We wanted to be trusted by all our clients. We wanted to offer the best advice. It's all based on business case. I mean, there's no point in offering advice if it's not going to be of value. And I think there's a real misnomer in tech at the moment. And I won't go into where I learned that, but let's say a lot of assets are produced, and they're great, but they're not tailored to businesses. So you have to a lot of work to say what makes it work. Here's a great example. It has been around for a little while. A lot of great examples of algorithms, as they call them, but are they good for businesses? Some are, some aren't. So you've got to really develop them, and it takes time. So we wanted to put everything in a wrapper, if you can call it that. So people first company, which is our mantra. Work with clients as a partnership, a real as a partnership. So, I want to be able to call up the CEO and go out for a coffee, and they'll say yes all the time. And also just offer them great advice, because, it's like, I've just had a kitchen put in. Yeah, it's a great
How
example, right?
exciting.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
That actually
But
sounds really sarcastic, but I actually mean it. I'm quite excited. I like kitchens.
well, I like kitchens, but I think the reality is when you get a fitter, you expect them to say you need to change all the sockets to this piece, or this location. You need to change all the plumbing to this location. Not tell me on the day. So I managed to sort of talk or tell or even invite electricians and plumbers in about 7 or 8 times just to move some stuff. And all they can need to do is just put a pencil on the wall and say, this is where you need to move it. That's what we do at Journi. We say, this is what works, rather than, oh, sorry, we forgot about that. And it's a really bad example, I guess, but it's just trying to emphasize the point.
No, I like it. I like it. The tech industry, particularly startups and digital transformation projects, have a huge reputation for failure. What typically goes wrong, and how have you got it right?
Not understanding your client, not having contacts. Quite often you might have great tech, but if you can't articulate what it means, you're not going to win anything, are you? And also external pressures. So you've got a lot of pressure from places like India, Indonesia, what have you. The price point's really low. So if you're talking just about tech companies in the UK, I think you've got a success rate of probably about 1 to 5%. And even if it's new tech, it's supplanted in 6 months' time by even newer tech, and it's about keeping up with the new stuff which is happening. So I think how we've got it right is what we've got contacts. We've basically maintained the contracts from 30 plus. I'll smile, but it's all in the tip. But 30 plus years of being in industry, we maintain those contacts. In addition to that, Carl's in particular, he's very up on all the new tech, and it helps that he's got the brain the size of a planet. But he really understands that, and I do all of the business case work. So look at does it work? So we do a lot of due diligence in the background, and then we get the right partnerships, and it's all about what gels and what does deal, dovetails together. That's the right word, isn't it? What goes together so that overall it becomes a really good package for the client. So and if it didn't work, we wouldn't be able to take clients from places where it did work, right? So it didn't work. So there's a few things, but it's keeping with innovation, but also I guess having great people, because it's not just about a client, it's about how you look after the individuals, and it's really how you speak to them, and everything that goes into the policies in the company. So I think a lot of companies have failed because people haven't been looked after, and they move if they're not happy, they move, right? So you've got to keep them happy.
So, how have you kept your employees happy? How many employees do you have now at Journi?
Extended about 20 plus. I would say full time about 7 or 8. It kind of
Okay.
depends. We can argue that it's over 50. It depends how you look at it. Um, uh, we've got a model which is 30/70, so 30% employees, 70% non-employees, if you can call it that. And that's merely because the tech industry, there's a lot of expertise out there, and you can't have it all yourself. So you've got to sort of get that in.
And you don't
Um,
need it all the time, do you? So you might need a
no, no,
specialist to come in for a few
absolutely.
months and do one piece of consulting work, and then you might not need them for another year. So I completely understand how that would work in the tech sphere.
Absolutely correct, and I think so. So to keep them, you've got to give them interesting work, and it's quite an interesting one. I mean, I'm looking a lot into AI at the moment because of my background, but also, um, I'm doing a course to sort of make sure I'm up to speed on there, because you do lose. You've got to keep up to speed on things, and really, it's how do we incorporate AI internally so they can take the boring stuff away from them. I mean, it's a misnomer that
Mm.
AI is going to take your job. It's not. It's they're going to take away the boring stuff. The people that takes the job if they don't adapt. So if people don't want to adapt, that's fine, it's their choice. But the guys love it because all of the simple code, the repetitive code, the testing, they don't want to do. I mean, these guys are really sort of intelligent individuals. They're really good at what they do. They want to have really challenging opportunities, and the
And
only way to do
creative opportunities as well, because
and
AI is
creative,
not creative, is it? Can you say that? Can you say AI is not creative? It's
you
been
can have people,
created, and creative people have created it, but
you can have
without
each
a go.
You could say that. I mean, it's a learning exercise. I mean, the theory behind it would say that it's not creative. It's what people. It's all bias. It's all what people teach it. I would say Elon Musk and others would probably say it's starting to be creative now, but they know more than we do because they're at the cutting edge of really like ChatGPT and so forth. Um, but yeah, it's the creative. You're right. It's the creative. It's the the change, all of those sort of stuff. You've got to keep it real for them. You've got to keep changing projects. I mean, we like to say we keep everyone on the same project, but that just stagnates. You're not learning new stuff. So it's good for the clients. It's good for the people. We've got to make sure that we interchange.
Do you think that's really key in work, in a job, whatever you do, to be learning and be being challenged, or you stagnate?
Um, it is for me. I can't speak for everyone, but I think it's right. I mean, if you just look at they did some. I'm not into statistics too much, although you have to look at them. But they just said that in the next 10 years, 80% of the jobs that we have now will go away, and there'll be 80% other jobs. Yeah. So, and really, what's most at risk is the middle classes, and the reason being is that middle classes are slightly older, they're more mature, let's say, they're less susceptible to change. Um,
Mm.
whereas the younger ones, so my daughter's a great example. She changes all the time. She's so up on social media. She knows everything, and she keeps me honest, which is great. But I think if you don't change and you're not open to that, then you're basically, firstly you could lose your job, but secondly you don't have all that sort of interesting work that you have. It's I can't imagine people want to do repetitive stuff all the time. They might do. It depends how people work, but
Depends on
yeah,
the individual, really, doesn't it? I think
I
some
guess
people
yeah.
like to go and have their sort of steady 9 to 5, sort of know what they're doing every day. And like, I mean, I'm completely unlike that. I have a different task list every day, and I'm in different places and I'm talking to different people. And I love that. I have to have challenge and interest and have to get my brain working. And I think most people like to have their brains working, no matter how sort of old you get in your career. I think you still want to be challenged and you still want to feel like you're achieving. I think it's down to that, isn't it? It's about that sense of purpose and achievement that you get from overcoming a challenge.
It is. It's why I get up every morning. Why would I come to work? I come to work because I'm interested. I want to get up every day and see what new comes in.
Mm,
That's what excites me, you know. I won't talk about my age, but I'm doing a course at Oxford at the moment, and really it's highbrow stuff. It's making my head hurt on a constant basis.
I bet.
But you have to learn, and you have to be at the real um, the top of your game when it comes to sort of new tech, because it's going to change. It's changing faster. Things that we talked about yesterday are changing tomorrow. I mean, GPT-4 has come out. Um, GPT-5 is probably around the corner. There's going to be a big change going forward. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, say changing. I mean, Carlos has done a GPT proof test for developers, because it has other ways around, right? We want the developers to be really good at what they do, but with ChatGPT they can design things. They can do a test in ChatGPT, and can we tell the difference? So
I've
we
got
design.
I've got a friend who did exactly that with a game design. He put in the information. He was trying to get some code out to do a particular animation or something in this game. I don't know about game design, but anyway, and he used ChatGPT, but he didn't just type into ChatGPT like, how do I code this? He like developed an entire story within the program and then gave it a blueprint for it to read and to test whether it would read back the correct code that he'd written to make this movement happen, and it did. And this was like the other day. So this is what's happening now. You can now put images in and it will read the images and it will read blueprints of coding and stuff like that. It is clever, isn't it? But is it clever enough yet?
It is, but we use it as well. I mean, talking about engineers, they have to debug, which they hate. They really hate it. But you put on ChatGPT, they do it in 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, where it was 2 or 3 hours before. Now that's guarded. You don't just accept it. That's why the guys are good, because they'll check it to make sure it's right. But yeah, it's getting a lot better.
Mm.
You just have to be aware of it.
Speaking of technology as a whole, most startups, well, I think all actually now rely on some form of technology. But of course, not all founders are tech professionals. How can founders ensure they set things up properly, technology wise? And what are the most important things to get right? We've just been talking about how quickly the landscape changes. Have you got any tips for getting it right to set off?
Yeah, I mean, I would talk to the right people. If you start talking to a tech provider, and their first question is, "This is what we can sell you," or "Run a mile," because it's already moved on. Look for someone who will work with you, who will guide you. I would say be a partner, but it's not just about that. It's really giving good advice that, and get someone to understand their business model, because you know the people who have the business understand their business model. Yeah. However, technology companies don't. So if they don't spend the time to understand it, then I wouldn't work with them, because it becomes a transactional. What you'll find is that you've been charged quite a bit of money. You don't get what you want, and then you're going to complain, and you're going to have friction. So avoid all that, and just interview. I would spend the time to even interview. Why wouldn't you interview, providers, and see if you like
Mm.
them? It's not just about tech.
Do you think
It might
people get
be.
a bit nervous about it? So they kind of go online, they Google, they find whoever's been sponsored the most with the most ad money, and they go, right, they'll do help, I'm stuck. And do you think people almost quite like a shopping list? Like, oh, they can fix this, they can fix this, they can fix this. Think what you're saying is don't do that. Go for somebody who's gonna provide a bespoke service. But is one thing that holds founders back from doing it properly, is it a lack of understanding of the tech? Are people nervous of it?
Yes, but I would argue against that, saying that yes, that's probably correct. I mean, a lot of founders are more tax heavy than they were before, I guess. But it's not just about that. Part of a partnership role, or part of a provider's role, is to give you the advice in a manner which you can understand. And that's the
Mm.
key point. If you don't articulate it in a way they can understand, then they're not doing their job, because yeah, I'm not talking about the real nuances of code. I'm talking about, really, what does it do? What will an AI chatbot do for you? What revenue will it do? How would you implement it? What will it mean? You need to articulate that, because if you don't, then oh, we can get a chatbot. Oh, great. What's it going to do? Oh, I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be great because it's AI. That's
Mm.
kind of where we are at the moment. So you really need to sort of get that articulate. And a lot of providers don't necessarily understand how to do that, I think, or don't do that. Maybe they understand it, but they don't do it.
Do you think a lot of them are still going with a sort of cookie cutter approach to problems for businesses and a shopping list on their website, like I mentioned earlier, and we'll solve these problems, but they're not getting into the actual. Because I mean, the problems businesses have are so unique now. Because businesses use, so there's so many different technologies and so many different softwares and so many different technological setups and laptops and phones, and there's just so much now. And I think each company is individual in the way they use tech, which is why I think your approach, that it has to be a bespoke approach, not a cookie cutter approach, is quite important. It's kind of screaming out of this interview that that's a fundamental point you're
It,
making.
it is, I mean, but bearing in mind, I've had quite a few years of experience. I mean, if you're talking about a big corporate, then you could argue that you could go a package, like a Salesforce or an SAP or something of that nature. The problem with that is that you've got to spend an awful lot of money to get on their roadmap, right? So they'd only change things to the Unilevers of this world, or Procter and Gamble's and things of that nature. If you want something unique, you usually develop it yourself, or try. You don't do it, but you get someone to do it for you. And really, it's the more simple. You want someone to explain it in the more simple terms. So I do think that I wouldn't say businesses are unique per se. I think there's new ways of actually sort of showcasing it, and there's new cases all the time, and that's what probably is confusing. But it's just really sort of getting people to explain that to you. I mean, we'll say a lot of people nowadays are more tech savvy than they were before. They do go online, they go to YouTube, they search it out. So you get a lot of questions, which is great, because they've researched it and they understand a little bit more of what we're saying to them. But you still have to articulate it in a way that makes sense to them.
How can the good use of technology transform a business, improve growth or efficiency? Can you give me some examples of companies you've worked with in this way?
So that's a very interesting question, Louisa.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. um, so I'll give you one example. I say I won't mention the client because I just don't think I can. It's the right thing to do. But they have or they had a system which had a lot of all that information in it. So like an operational system, but it had mainly data in there. It has a little, billing information, all sorts of things, based on old tech. And they weren't being efficient. They had to sort of jump out of the system to go and do things, jump back into the system. There was a whole raft of different things they had to do to just go through the day. What they asked us for was could you put a data lake? And it was quite interesting. I remember the CEO on a call during the discovery process, and that's one of the reasons why we got the job. They asked Carlos, actually, what do you think the system is? And he articulated something which made them understand what they were trying to do, which is a starting point. So right based on that, you heard the themes. If you have a theme for what you're trying to do, or you understand why you're doing it, the messages, you get on that bandwagon, that rolling ball, so to speak, and it helps because you can articulate exactly what that message is. He used that in board meetings. It was really, really interesting. And then really it was a case, it was a huge data lake. So getting all of the information. I mean, data is really important nowadays. It's everywhere. That's why Alexas and of this world, they eat up data. But the data which is normalized, and what I mean by normalized, it's clean. It's the same no matter where you look. Having that data and then using that makes the business much more efficient. And you're talking about up to 30% more efficient. But not only that, what it allows them to do, apart from the efficiencies internally, it allowed them to then look at that data and say, well, actually, can we surface that data? So you can use that data to selling it elsewhere. Can you use some of that data, which is really interesting, to another company who thinks it's going to be really interesting? That's a different business model. So
good side hustle.
Pardon me?
Good side hustle.
Good side hustle, yes. So they could do several things with it, and then if you wrap in things like AI on top of that, you could probably even do more. But it's a journey. Pardon the pun, sorry. But
Journey with an eye.
you take them on that journey, and I think it's not just about the first benefit; it's what comes after that. It's a continual journey because it is changing quite a bit. But so that's just one example, but there's lots of examples. I mean, I don't know if you want one, but that's what I've given you. And I'll give you another one if you want, but it's up to you.
Let's have one more, and then we're going to wrap it up, I think. So yeah, go for it.
One more. Okay, so let's say there's another one which I can't really talk about. It's in the energy, and this is about compare. It's like a U switch sort of thing, and comparing all the prices in a certain area that allows you then to let's say, give a competitive price to the asker. So it's basically a price comparison, but in a particular area. That in itself didn't have that before. It was all paper or what have you. And that in itself allows them the volume to come through. So basically, they're getting 600 whatever you call requests a day when it was 200 before. So it's a massive big ramp for their business. And they're able to cope with it. So the use of technology is really good, but also it makes it more modern. So it allows you then to build as you go forward. And that's the biggest thing as well. So if you make it so that it allows it to adapt and enhance it as you go forward, it's not just about the business problem you have, it's about what's going to be in the future. And that's what it can do.
I think that's a great point to finish on. So Martin Henry, CEO and co-founder of Journi, that's Journi. Thank you for joining me on the Business of Tech Partnerships. Where can we follow you online or get in touch for tech services and partnership opportunities?
Well, it's journi.uk is the code. You can get me at martin@journi.uk, which if you want to contact me directly, and it's quite interesting because everyone has first name. People first businesses first name at journi.uk. So Carlos is at Carlos at journi.uk. So, and obviously on LinkedIn as well. So that's the way you could do it.
Fantastic. Once again, Martin, thank you. It was lovely to meet you and have a chat today, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, and you too.
How was that?
Quicker than I expected.
Quicker? That was